Hello, and welcome to the HEAR Education module, Navigating HEAR Post-Approval, an overview. You've made it through the application process, feasibility review, scientific expert panel review, and your application was approved. Congratulations! So what comes next? You've done a lot of work so far, and now it's time to get your project moving. The objectives for today are as follows. First, we want you to understand the steps to obtain HEAR services following the approval of your HEAR application. This is the post-approval process. Second, we want you to be aware of the critical deadlines for submitting required documents, clearance activities, and retrieving, labeling, and shipping samples. Please note that some of the early documentation is prerequisite to subsequent steps, so timely completion of all parts of the process is important to avoiding slowdowns. And finally, we want you to understand how to obtain access to guidance and tools for successfully navigating the post-approval process. Let's get started. The overall post-approval process has many components, as you can see here. In the subsequent slides, we will present an overview of key phases of the process. Additional details for each phase will be presented in 4 separate modules. This slide shows a flowchart for the first phase of the post-approval process, clearance activities. It includes basic deadlines and responsibilities for this phase, and it is the focus of the module titled Navigating HEAR Post-Approval, Phase 1, Clearance Activities. Please note that once your project is approved, you should start working on the IRB attestation letter, data submission agreement and data sharing plan, the MTAs, and the lab analysis plan right away. As you can see, there are various deadlines for the different parts of this phase, and we will refer back to this flowchart during the Clearance Activities module. But as a preview, the Data Submission Agreement and Data Sharing Plan, also known as the DSA and DSP respectively, as well as the IRB attestation letter, are due 8 weeks post-approval. For the MTA, or Materials Transfer Agreement, submission is required 10 to 12 weeks post-approval. And for the lab analysis plans, those are due 12 weeks post-approval. Completing the documents on time is important because they are prerequisite to later steps. After the PI submits the DSA, DSP, and IRB attestation letter, the data center approves those documents at 9 to 10 weeks post-approval. Only after these documents are submitted and approved do you gain access to the Data Center portal, which allows you to upload your data. This is denoted by the star in the flowchart. The PI then submits the data no later than 10 to 12 weeks post-approval, and then the DC approves the data 12 to 16 weeks post-approval. The last stage of this step is the DC approving project data. Please note that another version of this flowchart can be found on page 13 of the Policies for Access to HEAR Services on the HEAR website. This is a flowchart of activities associated with the Label and Ship Samples phase of the post-approval process. As you can see, it begins approximately 16 weeks post-approval, immediately following the completion of the clearance activities phase. In the Navigating HEAR Post-Approval Phase 2 Labeling and Shipping module, we will refer back to this flowchart. Some important items to note are the Coordinating Center, or CC, prints sample labels and ships them to the PI and facilitates a conference call with the PI, all involved lab hubs, the data center, and the CC to discuss sample labeling and shipping. This occurs approximately 17 to 18 weeks post-approval. After the sample labeling call, the lab hub will request the PI label, pack, and ship samples. Over the next several weeks, the PI uses the Data Center portal to link SIDs to PIDs and print the shipping manifest. Finally, when the PI is ready to ship samples, they will confirm that the lab hub is ready to receive samples and coordinate a shipping date. Once the shipment has been coordinated, the PI ships samples. This is all done by 24 weeks post-approval. This is a flowchart for the laboratory and statistical analysis phase, the third phase of the post-approval process. Note that in this flowchart, the dates are given in months after the previous action. While like the previously displayed flowcharts, this will be discussed in detail in the module dedicated to this phase, Laboratory and Statistical Analysis. There are a few things we'd like to point out as a preview. Once the Lab Hub receives your samples, analysis will take approximately 6 to 9 months, depending on the number and complexity of the analyses, and the queue of the Lab Hub. Your project's progress can be tracked from your HHEAR dashboard. Once the analyses are complete, the data center will review the results and do quality control before releasing the final data files to the PI. This takes about 1 to 2 months. After that, if statistical analysis was requested, the data center will work with the PI to complete this portion of the project. This takes an additional 6 to 9 months. Please note that untargeted metabolomic results will be made available through the Metabolomics Workbench, which is linked at the bottom of this screen. Also note that all active links in this module and all other post-approval modules are available in the slides located on the HHEAR website. This chart highlights the critical components of the final phase of the post-approval process, publication. This process will be covered in depth in the publication module, but as a preview, we'd like to highlight a few things. First, your results will remain in embargo for 1 year from the time you received your results or completed the statistical analysis with HHEAR, or until you publish your results, whichever occurs first. While working on your manuscript, there are important considerations you must keep in mind. Again, these are covered in depth in the Publications module and in the Policy Guide for Publication, but they include determining authorship and being sure to include the appropriate contributors from the HHEAR components, and acknowledging NIH funding as well as other contributions as appropriate. And finally, once the manuscript is complete, it must be registered with HHEAR. Remember, there are many steps involved in moving your project from an approved application to publication, and there are many people involved as well. Being aware of and adhering to the timeline helps facilitate the successful completion of your project. Let's take a minute to go over a few important reminders. The Coordinating Center will contact you and provide step-by-step instructions through this process. Please respond promptly to requests for information. The Lab Hubs and Data Center will also reach out to you for information as needed. Please be sure to respond promptly to their requests for information. Please remember that excessive delays or missing documents can jeopardize access to services. If you have questions or concerns along the way, please remember that you can always reach out to the HHEAR Coordinating Center at HHEAR_CC@westat.com for assistance. If you have additional questions, please review the FAQ section of the HHEAR public website and/or contact the HHEAR Coordinating Center at HHEAR_CC@westat.com. And finally, here we have provided links to portions of the HHEAR website and data repository that you might find helpful. Thank you, and remember, we are here to help.